Yes.
But
Yeah.
the whole thing, I'm like, this is my fault. Like the amount of stress that I've put my family through.
Mm.
I'm 5 weeks post-op. I'm like, I'm not out of the woods yet. I have to have that other procedure on Wednesday. I'm like, this is a drain. Like my husband has had to take over the cooking and cleaning and all the things that I would,
Yeah.
be contributing to. And so there's a lot of stress and guilt around just the a decision I made 12 years ago
Yes.
impacting the people that had nothing to do with that decision now.
I know. I know. And responding to that with a lot of self-compassion is so key, right? Because, you know, if you'd had a crystal ball, and if you'd had a fully informed consent, and if you'd
Mm-hmm.
known everything, you probably wouldn't have gone down this path. And, but you went
Agreed.
forward like I did, you know, thinking and expecting a certain experience. And that's just not how it worked out for you and your body. And so giving yourself grace, like a lot of women, a big area that we work on is self-forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to go back to their younger self and tell her this and tell her not to do this and just do da, 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 and so just being able to look at that again in this bigger context,
Mm-hmm.
if you were born in a different country, one where breasts weren't sexualized, you would have never made that choice.
Right. It wouldn't have never been on the
No,
forefront of my 19-year-old mind.
absolutely not. There are
Mm-hmm.
cultures on this planet right now where breasts are food sources, period.
That's it.
And if you were born in one of those, nobody would be doing the
Yeah.
cooking and cleaning for you right now.
Right.
you
I'll be
know?
honest, he does a lot of it anyway, but I'm still a little
Yeah,
guilty.
good guy.
Right. But
yeah.
that actually brings up a good point. Why do you think that in our society they are so sexualized in the first place? Because that's ultimately what's impacting all of us, pushing us towards that decision, no matter what age we get them.
Yep. I mean,
What do you think
that
that is?
is the $1 million question. And so I went down that rabbit hole when I was writing Busting Free. I was
Yeah.
looking for, you know, explanations. When did this
Mm-hmm.
start? Why is it in some cultures, not others? What is this all about? And I'll just give you a condensed version of what I think, based
Sure.
on all that reading, and then also based on what I know about humans and behavior and the fact that we are social creatures, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
like it or not, the bottom line is that most of the communities around the globe are patriarchies. That just
Mm-hmm.
means, and I'm not bashing men, I love men. Okay, so let me just say that. I'm using this word to just say, like it or not, in many of these cultures, the males have had the power. Property was inherited down the patrilineal line.
Mm-hmm.
Women were offered up as ways to better marriages and better families. And so we just come from a long, 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 long line of not being, in that position of power, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so group belonging really matters to all humans, unless you are a sociopath. Group belonging really matters to us. And so if you happen to be born in a group where one way for you to belong better is to be more appetizing,
Mm-hmm.
more visually appealing, if you see that that gets other people attention, or maybe better marriage opportunities, and I'm talking like hundreds of years ago, like
Sure.
if that's the way that it's been, then we now live in a culture where you can make that happen. You can surgically make, and it's not just our breasts, women are doing it with, we continue to do it with all parts of our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We're the ones that wear makeup. We're the ones that color our hair constantly,
Mm-hmm.
and this behavior
Yeah, I was just
has,
looking at my roots today.
yeah, this behavior has been going on for eons. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's just the way that it is. And I think you know, if we looked at matriarchal societies, that this behavior would be vastly different, perhaps non-existent, you know?
So
So I think that
interesting.
that's part of it. I did go down the rabbit hole of the research of like, what is it about breasts, and,
Mm-hmm.
how did humans originally start to, like them or want them? And there's all these different theories out there about, it's a sign of, and I thought a lot of them were crap. Like it's a sign of, fertility and health,
Mm.
but very small breasted women can feed small countries. They can make that much milk. I was
Right?
one of them,
Oh
so
yeah.
I don't really know. They've done studies where they show different breasts of different sizes and shapes to both men and women, and they have them say which ones they find most attractive. And interestingly, it um, showed that there's like a range that is attractive, but too large is not attractive to
Mm-hmm.
most humans, and neither is very, very small. But there's this like, a continuum, a range in the middle. And
Yeah.
so if you grow up in a society where the smaller ones or asymmetrical ones or tuberously shaped ones or cancer affected ones or
Mm-hmm.
nursing ones or weight loss affected ones, if you grow up in a society where those things aren't idealized, then
Mm-hmm.
you're going to want to quote fix that,
Fix
you
it.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Interesting.
yeah, I always think, we're not doing these things to our pinkies. We don't have pinky
Right.
implants to make them,
Yeah.
fuller and shaped different. It's just
Right.
this part of our body, and it's so interesting. And I think
Super
it's really
fascinating.
important to try to get women and men, to step outside of that and to see that they matter because of the society we grow up in, but you are still you, no
Mm-hmm.
matter how they change over your life. You are still you, even if you have to lose a body part. You are still you. And that is absolutely true. Even if you explant, you are still you. You're just you with a different chest. you
Right.
know?
Well, I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of value, especially because just talking about, because a lot of us are going to be super flat chested after this, right? That it's just the reality of the game. And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of value in just emphasizing that, like, first of all, there's other super sexy parts,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so we can focus on making sure that we feel good. But at the end of the day, I think it's the confidence, right? It's everything that you're teaching that helps
Mm-hmm.
us in the mental state. Because regardless of if I was at my heaviest or my thinnest, it's so funny. I look back at when I got my implants, Amanda, and I'm like, I got my implants because I wasn't confident at all in my body, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, I would kill to weigh what I used to weigh back
I
then, right?
know. I
All
know.
the things that we do. And but I remember when I got them, I was so uncomfortable. Like the attention that I got
Yep.
from men, right? I started dressing different. I dressed way more conservative after implants than I
Yes.
ever did before them, right?
Yeah.
And it's all in my head. It's all it's all about the value I see within myself.
Yes.
It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the actual boobs.
I
It has
know.
everything to do with my
That's
head.
that's why I talk about getting more than you bargained for from breast implants.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the ways that we get more than we bargained for, is that unwanted attention or a quality of attention that isn't really what we're accustomed to or that we want,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of women do end up not showing them off the way that they had
Mm-hmm.
imagined that they would. I was one of them. I was just like you. And
Really.
so, oh yeah, I think I had like a couple of fun outfits, and then I was like, this isn't so fun. This doesn't feel like me. I don't like this, and I wanted to be off that radar,
Mm-hmm.
so
I did too,
yeah.
which is so funny, right? Because I was like all about the breast implants when I got them. But I also come from a family who, like, every single woman in my family has had breast implants. And so it comes back to
Mm,
that same concept you were just talking about, right? Everybody, like, we naturally gravitate towards women, and the women in my life all basically said that if you're a woman, you have to get breast implants to be sexy because
I
they
know.
all did
I know.
it.
Well, I mean, if you just go on Google right now and type in, should I get breast implants? And look at the websites that are, just crushing the SEO, and they're the top performing websites that answer that question. It's filled with a lot of language that is promising you confidence. It's promising you proportionality, balance, sexy, power. You get to be the woman that you deserve to be. I mean, the language is powerful. It's evocative and it's predatory, right? And so if you were in a family like yours, where it was very, very normalized, your mind, without your permission or your awareness, your mind is going to say, I don't have that. I must be wrong.
Right.
They must be right. I must be wrong. I'm not measuring up enough. And then your mind is like, that's a threat, right? And it wants to fix it. Just like when my husband was like, you look like an African lowland gorilla. My mind was like, what?
He's obviously talking about my boobs.
Yes.
Poor Brad. I've done that to him too. And he's like, that has nothing to do with what I was talking about. And I'm like, it has everything to do with it.
Yeah. So that's why, what we're talking about, it's a lot of it's easier said than done. And I always want to acknowledge that, what I'm talking about, what I'm offering to women, it's hard to condense it into, bite-sized 60 seconds or less reels on Instagram. I do my best, but these are complex things. It is hard. And, it's, I encourage women to look at Busting Free, to read the reviews so they can see what other women are saying about it, and look at the, it's online library. So I worked really hard and I created, it's at bustingfreeonline.com, but I made that open access for women. I'm not email gatekeeping it, to the great chagrin of lots of people who have worked with me on this project, but I've made it open source. It is literally click and play. And I did that because the resources don't exist, and I know that women need them. And I wanted to reduce the friction of them accessing it. And so if you just start listening to those guided audios, it will move you through, no matter where you are on your journey, it will move you through fully reclaiming your mind and your heart from these things that we're talking about. And you can do that even if you love your breast implants and you are nowhere near ready to explant. You can start reclaiming your heart and mind now. And man, I wished I'd thought to do that. I knew that I was going to get mine out at some point, and I wished I'd started on the inner work long before. And, if you're in the middle of preparing for explant surgery, you can do that. And if you long ago explanted, you can do it. And so, the guided audios help you learn how to practice mindful awareness of your full experience with them, how to attune to yourself, helps you work with that part of your mind that tries to fix how you feel on the inside by fixing how you look on the outside. I call it your inner fixer. It helps you. I love these two resources. I created mindful body scans from mindfulness-based stress reduction, and I modified them for women who are post-explant. And so you can do it literally right after surgery. You don't have to move your arms or anything. And it helps your mind mentally remap your body. So if you had a full C cup for 12 years, and then you have a surgery and you wake up and you are flat, it helps you, it helps your mind remap that, which your mind needs that. It's sort of like, what the hell is going on? So yeah. And I made one for women who are explanting after augmentation, so they still have breast tissue, or women who are explanting after mastectomy, so they're explanting to flat and they don't have breast tissue. And those are different issues. A lot of the psychosocial concerns are the same, but that body scan needed to be different. So
definitely different journeys though, right? Those are two very different, like one person did this to herself, right? She's going to have that perspective, where the other has gone through something extremely traumatic that she's like, they were taken away from her, right? It was a different thing. So I could see the value in having two different approaches.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah. It's the explant to flat community is something I feel really passionate about, because so many of them talk about how with breast cancer diagnosis, it feels like this very fast paced conveyor belt, and you just get put on it and it just takes you straight to reconstruction with implants. And a lot of them are like, I didn't realize I had a choice. I didn't realize I didn't need to reconstruct with implants. It was like, that was the foregone conclusion that I was going to do that. And it was all so fast, and then they go through that experience with the expanders. I companioned my sister through her whole experience with this. And it was unlike anything I've ever gone through or witnessed. She's one of the strongest women I know. And it was very painful to her, all to, maintain breasts. And a lot of women who explant to flat or go straight to flat, they're liberated by not maintaining that kind of rule that you have to have breasts to be a woman,
Right.
Yeah. I think we can all learn a lot from honoring their experience for sure,
Oh, I totally agree. Breasts don't make you feminine, right? That has nothing to do with it. And that's what, like, I'm still working through that personally. Right. And I still have some breast tissue. I was pleasantly surprised that I had more than I expected, and I'm still struggling with it. So I can't imagine, what it would feel like to lose it all, especially that way. And then the number of surgeries, how many surgeries did your sister, do you recall, have to go through after the actual mastectomy?
She had the mastectomy, and then, that was so much. And then all the, filling of the expanders, and getting that going. And then she had the implants placed. So she hasn't had a ton of repeat surgeries or things. She's been pretty lucky. So
that is lucky. I know women who've had 20 plus surgeries after because of complications and stuff. I definitely would not want to sign up for that.
I know. It's a lot. So I don't know. I think we just have to all be really, really supportive of each other. I'm very eager for a day when we're able to dialogue around breast implant illness in a way that is just transparent, curious, open, and that it isn't met with derision or dismissiveness or, contentiousness. It continues to boggle my mind, why that is the case when there's photographic proof that it is the way that it is, and as a mental health practitioner, it is so frustrating to me whenever people say it's all in their head. This is a placebo effect. And I love to share my story and say, I didn't even know it was a thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
It can't be a placebo effect for me because I didn't know it was a thing, and there's so many stories like that. So.
I can't imagine how furious it must make you, because it literally puts a rock in my stomach when a woman comes to me and says that another surgeon has told her that breast implant illness is not real and that it's in her head. Or the big one that I faced, my first surgeon I walked into was like, some women say that this is a thing, and like the whole gaslighting that you were talking about. And I'm floored that it's 2022. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of us at this point who are outwardly speaking about it. And we're still being treated like we're freaking crazy.
I know. And that they say it's a social media phenomenon, but this was going on in the 90s. This was going on before social media existed. All you have to do is type in Oprah Winfrey breast implants, Jenny Jones breast implants, Connie Chung breast implants. This was going on in the 90s. It's the exact same. I don't know if you've done that exercise, but if you do, be ready to cry, because it is literally, the women are saying word for word the same exact thing. And social media didn't exist back then. So, it's I don't understand why it's this way, as a person, as a health practitioner. I just don't. It really does remind me of, back in the day in maternal health, there was so much focus on, how pregnancy could change the body and, getting a woman safely through pregnancy. And everybody was looking over postpartum depression. right?
Mm-hmm.
And not recognizing postpartum depression led to suicide. It led to infanticide. Like it's very serious,
Yeah.
and I feel like we're repeating this. We see this in women's health a lot, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, postpartum
Mm-hmm.
depression, breast implant illness. It's this initial pushback of this is psychosomatic, this is somatic symptom disorder and all of that stuff. And it's just so unhelpful.
Infuriating.
Yeah. Yeah, it
It's
really is.
crazy when you think about it that way. Like there's definitely, I mean, obviously there's a money side of it, right? Like plastic surgeons make an exuberant amount more when they put breast implants in rather than when they take them out, right? It's a known fact. They make more money. So obviously it's a money driven thing, but I think what you just said is really important to understand too, that certainly it's a money driven industry, but this is not the first time that women's health hasn't been the priority, right?
Yeah.
Or the focus, especially mental health. I think that always takes a backseat.
Oh my God. Did you just see how my eyes rolled in my head? It really does. It just does. And it's so unfortunate. So I don't know. I just really, it's like another really good analogy is, and this one I think gets to the point that you were just making about money, is, a couple decades ago, that doctor was coming forward with his findings, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but he was coming forward with his findings about um, brain injuries in football
Mm.
players.
Oh yeah,
And
I know who you're talking about. Dang it, I can't think of
yes,
the name either.
yeah. And that was a big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like think of all of everything that goes into football, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to have something potentially make that game need to be modified or played differently or whatever, something that was threatening the
Mm-hmm.
safety and well-being of the players and their long-term cognitive functioning, right? And so a lot of people initially, that was met with derision, and it was met with anger, and it was met with dismissiveness, and
Mm-hmm.
it took time for the science to catch up and for the social acceptance around that. And now, as a result, things have changed, different safety things have been put into place, and everybody's playing their game, And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm hoping that we are all just at this point where, the science is catching up, and it's going to end up having to be socially and medically accepted, and a great example of the science catching up, and this is a plug, if you are putting this podcast out, and then, in the next couple of weeks or even afterwards, because people can watch it after, but there's the Breast Implant Health Summit. And I'm
Uh-huh.
just really encouraging women. And, if you have breast implants, if you ever had breast implants, you are welcome to attend that. It's for practitioners,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a day that's focused for patients as well. And I was looking at the agenda, and there's a lot of different talks throughout each of the days that I think would be super interesting to women on these journeys. And so that to me is another way for women who are moving through this with that ambiguity and the what ifing and the self-doubt, and just watch
Yeah.
the Breast Implant Health Summit. That is something you can do. You can act on your own behalf and learn.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you have to run out an explant, but you can learn about gel bleed. You can
Right.
learn about um, the importance of MRIs, and
Mm-hmm.
that maybe you are just going to have to save the money to pay for it, because it can detect, you know, silicone granulomas, so there's so many things that are going to be discussed at the Breast Implant Health Summit, that I think is going to be really, really helpful. And I think it's going to be moving us, the people who work in breast implant safety and breast implant
Mm-hmm.
health, I think it's going to be moving us to, that vision that I keep talking about, where we can just have a conversation about this
And
and
it's
just
not weird.
recognize it. Yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
just,
Totally. I've
and
actually been looking at going to the summit myself. I've been invited by a couple of people, and just for the sheer fact that I know that there's going to be information that women need to hear.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I present on the last day.
Oh
So,
yeah. I was going to ask
yeah,
if you were actually presenting. I would love to see that.
yeah.
Oh,
talk about finding your way through explant's harder to see inner journey. So,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's really chapter 4 from Busting Free. So,
Ah, I love that.
yeah, and the main message there really is, it just normalizes that this isn't something that you're just like, you know what, I'm just done with these implants. Some women are, but usually it's a pretty long change process,
Yeah.
um, you know, whether it's BII related or not, some women, like I work with a lot of women they're pre-contemplative. So they kind of think that maybe they're having some systemic issues,
Mhm.
but they want to exhaust every other possibility first. You sound like your journey was a little different where you didn't know and you were doing that exhaustive search. And then part of that led you to find BII. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it basically because I'm otherwise healthy, right? Like I've
Mhm.
never really had bad, other than, I mean, I got my implants in when I was 19, like I said, right? So over the years, I certainly have had all the IBS symptoms and gastrointestinal issues that everybody
Ugh,
talks about. I just thought that was normal, right? I thought that was
yeah.
my normal anyway. But over the last year, I ended up in the hospital with migraines. I started having respiratory issues to the degree that these stairs, I could not walk up, Amanda. Oh gosh, my lighting is all messed up. I
Oh,
could not walk up my stairs.
the
Oh
audio
no.
cut out. Can you
Oh no,
hear
can you hear
me?
me okay? Second. Hold on. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally my fault. Sorry. Moved my computer and messed everything up.
Sorry.
But I
Yeah.
was just saying I could not make it up those stairs without being so out of breath that I had to stop to catch my breath.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like my body was tired or anything. It's like my lungs just could not get the air that I needed. And I've
Yeah.
never experienced anything like that before. And so in my search for things, right, it was I had a friend a couple of years ago, probably 3 years to 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even now, who got her implants out. And so it was always in the back of my mind as a possibility, but I was
Yeah.
certainly not willing to consider it back then
Mhm.
as a
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
But it only took me a year of my health going declining really, really quickly before I went, let's just take them out and
Yeah.
hope that that's what it was. So it was a pretty
Yeah.
fast decision for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Once I decided, right?
Exactly. It's so great. I love hearing that because, I'm in that other, just like I said, 4 years makes such a difference, but it
Yeah.
just wasn't anything that a person with breast implants would know. Like there was no way for me to know. I was
Right.
not on social media and I didn't know, but I'm remembering how, I would not go downstairs if I was upstairs and like trying to settle down for a night. I wouldn't
Hmm.
go downstairs because it would be so taxing and then it would be so hard on my heart. And I just would, and like my husband and I just kind of had an agreement, like if I forgot something downstairs or needed something, he just would happily go get it. And
Wow.
we just thought that was just related to my heart, but that's all over for me now. You just reminded me of this whole way that
Yeah.
I lived my life that, I just never see, I never connected it until right now, but I don't do that
Right.
anymore. Now I'm like, damn, I got to go back downstairs. It's like not a big deal.
No, it's amazing to me the things that we just like acclimate to,
Yes.
right? Like one of the biggest things I struggled with was the fatigue, and I didn't realize that's what it was, but I have had such fatigue for so many years that it like everybody knows me as the queen napper, right? Because I could fall asleep anywhere. There has never been a time in my marriage that I didn't fall asleep during a movie at night, right? Like, and now I'm not even kidding. I'm shocked because post explant, my husband falls asleep on the couch before I do. And I'm like, what is this?
I love that.
I don't
That's
even
what
recognize it.
that's what I say is it's funny, I don't get to talk about this very much, but I'm having fun talking about it. After explant, I say it felt like I'd been like a redlined phone battery and that somebody plugged me in.
Oh,
but I didn't
yeah.
know I was a red line phone battery. I didn't know it. I just thought I was just aging like that. And so I felt this like energy surge and this resurgence of me. And I'm this very gregarious, energetic, vital person. And I'd forgotten that,
Oh, yeah.
And so when I started like kind of coming back online, I just thought,
Coming back to life,
kidding
literally.
me? Yeah, I was like, my
Right?
poor
Amazing.
body was working so hard in its battle against the bags that
Yeah.
I was exhausted, So yeah. Anyway,
Well,
so
I'm so
good.
glad that you're feeling so amazing because you so deserve to.
Yeah, as do you. I love that you're
Thank you.
doing your podcast. It's going to be really great. Thank you for letting me join you.
Oh my gosh, of course. Are you kidding?
Yeah, that was fun talking about it. Talking about those aspects that I haven't thought about for a while. But yeah, because I focus so much on the inner healing, sometimes I kind of forget, like, yeah, my heart used to go crazy when I would go downstairs, So
Oh.
yeah.
Well, Amanda, I can't even tell you how grateful I am for your time. Genuinely.